right, my name is Tracie, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Tracie.
And I am excited to be here with you guys tonight. I am from Dallas, Texas, yes. And my home group is the Chicago group in Dallas, Texas. There's a whole story behind that. And I want to say some thank yous. Thank you to Ed, who asked me to speak and then moved out of the state, and to Neil and Corey and all that put this all together. I started a meeting like this in Phoenix called Get in the Car, and it's a lot of work. It doesn't come off without a lot of help and a lot of volunteers. So thank you to everybody who helped put this together. I want to say thank you to Victoria and her entourage for picking me up. She drove from here to Salt Lake City to get me and then all the way back, and I just really appreciate your service. You'll hear a little bit in a minute about service for me and how important that is. And then let me clarify, I don't have groupies. I don't come with an entourage. I'm just a drunk girl. That's it. But our group, we have a monthly newsletter that we put where everybody from our group is speaking that month, and I put Utah. And then at the meeting that on Wednesday night, our secretary has people. If you're speaking this week, raise your hand. And I raised my hand. I said I'm going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah. I know nobody's going to be around, but that's where I'm going to be. And Brad said, I'll be there. So Brad is actually visiting his daughter, Abby, who has 2 years sober. Yay! Woohoo! From Park Cities, right? And Brad brought his lovely fiancée, Valerie, to be with us tonight. So they're actually on a vacation skiing. So they just came, out of their vacation to go to an AA meeting to support a member of their home group. Because that's what we do, that's what we do. My dad taught me that it doesn't matter if it's December 25th, July 4th, vacation, I have to treat my alcoholism, no matter where I'm at. And typically when I'm on a trip, I'll see if we can't, fit in an AA meeting. So, because Alcoholics Anonymous for me is not, I don't hit meetings. It's not something I do, when I'm having a bad day. Alcoholics Anonymous is my life. I walked into a room that was just like this. The lights were on, the chairs were set, the coffee was made, and I found for just a moment, I found some hope for a girl like me. Because when I came in here, I was embarrassed and ashamed and guilty, and I should have been, and my eyes hit the floor. I didn't look anybody in the eye, especially another woman. And when I walked in here, I felt just a little bit of hope. I felt like maybe there was a chance for me to have some kind of life that wasn't hell out there. I feel like I absolutely stepped into the hands of God when I walked into a room. This room is very precious to me. Rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, podiums of Alcoholics Anonymous are very precious to me because this is where people are coming to save their life. People are dying from alcoholism, and they walk in this room, and I want them to feel safe and hope, and I want those girls to have a safe place to sit, and I want you to come all the way in and sit all the way down, because that's what I did. That's what you gave me. So I take this room with a lot of respect. So, God, I'm crying already. I have to tell you, last week, I talked last week at an event in Dallas, and I get a little nervous, and I get a little up in my head, and I went into the restroom, and I was in my little stall praying, and thinking, and how, I don't know about you, but my head goes, and I was just, I hope I give a good talk. I want those girls to hear what I have to say. My people from my home group are here. I hope it's okay. I don't want to disappoint anybody. How your mind just and all of a sudden I heard this voice go, "Stop obsessing." I thought, oh my God, God's in the bathroom. Oh my God. There's like nowhere you can go and he's not there. Come to find out, I didn't know it, but there's another woman in the bathroom and she happened to be on the phone with the sponsee, telling her sponsee at that moment, stop obsessing. Oh God. All right. So I am from Texas. I'm actually from Lubbock, Texas. My real father, my mom went to the gangster side of town, and my father, they were not married. She got pregnant with me, and he was occupied elsewhere. And when she had me and left the hospital with me, he said, I don't want anything else to do with you. And shortly thereafter, he went to prison. He murdered a man, and he went to prison. And I met him when I was 18, and he wanted nothing further to do with me, and I honored that man's request. My mom, after she left the gangsters, she went to the rodeo grounds and found, the best bull rider in the room, and she married him, and he was who I called my dad. My dad was a very violent man. He was an alcoholic, very violent, crazy, angry. I say that our house at 2 o'clock in the morning came alive, and I didn't know if we were going to a hotel, motel, hospital, jail, staying at the house, going to be on the street or in the car. I didn't know. I just knew that our house was alive at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I had a little brother by this time with him, and he and I would hide under the cover or in the closet. And I knew the next day when I went to school, I knew that you knew what had happened at my house last night. I knew that you knew that my house was the white trash house. Therefore, when I went to school, I didn't associate with anybody. I had that shame, embarrassment, guilt, not a part of, want to come out of my skin, and I just stayed to myself. Alcoholism is an extremely isolating disease. I was in the corner alone. My mom, somewhere along the line, my mom left my drunk dad, and she found this thing called Al-Anon. And I hope that you don't miss the Al-Anon speaker next week or month, whatever it is. And here's what I know about Al-Anon, or I learned about Al-Anon. My mom was gone a lot at night. I had to do a lot of babysitting. Back then they had butterfly pins, and that was what they gave each other for birthdays instead of chips. So my house had a lot of butterflies, lots. Bedspreads, pots and pans, towels, everywhere. And the only thing that was good for was extracurricular activities. The butterflies flew around. And then the other thing I knew was my mom was on the phone often, and I would hear her say, honey, it's just Tuesday. We're just going to do Tuesday today, okay? And I thought, those women are so stupid. They don't even know what day it is. What has she gotten into? And that's what I knew about Al-Anon. Now, I'll tell you, I have a huge respect for Al-Anon and the Al-Anon program. I believe that alcoholism is the only disease powerful enough to kill those that don't have it. And I believe if it weren't for the Al-Anons, you and I'll speak for me, probably wouldn't be standing here today. So my mom left my drunk dad. We moved out into the country. My mom had no education, and we moved into a one-bedroom shack. It was she had a room. My brother and I had bunk beds, and they were in the laundry room. Ceiling coming down, floor going in. It was a rat-infested, roach-infested shack. And one more time, I am ashamed. I am embarrassed. I feel guilty. I don't want anybody to know me. I don't want anybody to see me. And I'm in a corner one more time. And there he was. And you'll hear that theme a few times in my story. So his name was Jay. Jay had long blonde hair. Jay had big black thick boots. Jay had a ring that went from his belt loop to his wallet, so when he walked, he jingled. And his boots were heavy, and all the girls told me, bad boy, Jay is a bad guy, stay away. And so when Jay came sauntering up to me and said, hey, you want to go hang out? I said, you betcha. And Jay had a green GTO with the big wide tires, and he came screeching down the dirt road and picked me up, and I jumped in the car, and there were 2 brown paper sacks in the car. One for him, one for me. His had a 6-pack of Bud, and mine had a bottle of Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. You all know. Now, I'll tell you, I have drank, there was always alcohol around our house, and I had sips of beer, I drank, but this is the night that I remember the effect produced by alcohol in my life. Not my dad's life, my mom's life, my life. And what happened to me is this. My perception of you and where I lived and what I was and how I felt about me was gone. Everything was okay. It was just okay. You were okay. I was okay. And the thing that it gave me the most was right here, right now. I was in the moment. I was right here. I was having fun, and I loved it. And I knew at whatever cost, I was going to do it again because it fixed that inside spring, and you all know it, that gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and it just released it. It was gone. The minute I took that drink, went down, nice, warm. I didn't feel guilty or ashamed or less than. I was right there equal. And what happened is my house came alive again at 2 o'clock in the morning, my turn. And my mom and I went to war because I was going to do anything to drink. It fixed everything. So, you know how we cry at our parents, if you just let me do what I want, just leave me alone, we'd get along all right. And one night my mom finally said, you win, you're out. So I got my wish. I was probably 16 years old and out. I dropped out of high school. Some girls and I got an apartment, and I started my career at Pizza Hut, off and running. Back then, it was the drinking age was 18, so I could get into bars easily. And I am a bar drinker. I am in the middle of you, whatever's going on, wherever it's at. I do not sit at home and sip wine. I am in the middle, right there. Usually causing the havoc. So it was one particular night, Tuesday, and it was Tom Collins' night at the bar. So we borrowed neighbor's car, and this girls, we go to the bar. I had a lot of Tom Collins, which is clear, a lot of red cherries. Sometime in the night, I fell off the bar stool. I couldn't stay it on any longer. They kicked me out. I went to the car. Probably around 3 o'clock in the morning, I came to, with dried red cherry puke stuck to my face, hair, and seat. And when I came to, it was probably 3 in the morning. I was probably about 15 years old. And here's what I thought. I just started crying hysterically. And what I thought was, I'm scared. I want to go home. I just want to go home. I just want to have a house with frilly curtains, a white picket fence, mom and dad, and be at the football game with Johnny. That's what I want. But I knew that I was a piece of crap. My family was a piece of crap. I knew I was never going to have frilly white curtains and a white picket fence. Are you kidding me? And I was just scared. I hadn't seen my family, talked to my family, and some guy gave me a ride back to my apartment, and I banged on the door, and my roommate came to the door. Now, when my roommate opened the door, you know that I couldn't tell her, I'm scared and I want my mommy, because we're tough girls. We're bad chicks. I couldn't tell her what was going on, so I lied. And I told her, she's like, what's wrong? And I said, I just got raped. She's like, holy crap, get in the house. Are you okay? And so now we've got the drama going, and I'm in the house, and I don't have to tell the truth. And I said, yeah, there was 2 guys. It was horrible. She's hysterical, and I'm like, okay, good. I'm in the house. I'm good. I just want to go to bed now. It's time to go to bed. I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes later, on my bedroom door, and I open the door, and in walks 2 policemen with their little notepads. And behind the policeman is my mom and 10,000 Al-Anons to help, who I hadn't seen in several months. And behind them was the forensic photographer who was going to take pictures of me and the car and lift prints. And behind them was the Rape Crisis Center representative assigned to my case. Holy crap. What are you going to do with that? Well, you don't tell the truth. So I just went with it. I just had to go with it. Now, I want to fast forward a minute. My mom had been an Al-Anon for a long time. My mom speaks all over the country. I'd never heard her speak. She asked me to come hear her speak. I had a drink and went to go hear my mom speak. My mom's behind the podium. She's hanging on. She starts to cry. And I thought, wow, wonder what she's going to tell. And she talks about the time that she beat up her daughter, kicked her daughter out of the house, and her daughter was raped by 2 men, and the tremendous guilt that she felt on a daily basis. And I thought, oh my God. She's going all over the country telling that story, and it ain't true. And she's carrying a tremendous amount of guilt. Now, you know what I should have done? I should have went up and told her mom that wasn't true. But you know what I did do? I said, great talk, and left and drank. We don't tell the truth with that stuff. Now let me fast forward again a minute. When I got sober and I saw these, steps on the wall and this amends deal, I told my sponsor, there's something I really want to do now. And we talked about it and made that decision to tell my family the truth about this rape. And the book says that we do that to clean up our side of the street, not expecting how they're going to react. And I can tell you, she didn't react well. That didn't go well. So always work with your sponsor on those amends. I'll tell you another quick little story about amends. When I got sober, I saw these steps and I saw these amends, that we were going to have to go make all these amends. And I'm a quick thinker. I start thinking about all the guys that I get to make amends to. Ooh, I better call Johnny and Bobby and John. I wonder where he's at. So I get my little, I have to be honest, it wasn't cell phones then. I had my little black book out and I start calling these guys. I need to see you. I need to come talk to you. So never, ever do that. Always talk to your sponsor prior to making amends, because I just made a big mess is what I made and had to go fix that. So after this little rape scenario, I moved back home. It was going to be different. I went back to school. I graduated. I'm going to go off to college. Now, you put a girl like me in college. College was an absolute disaster. And on the way to college, I had to stop by my probation officer's office to get a slip sign that I could go, because I had been arrested a few times for a few things. So I'm in college, and that quickly was a disaster. I think I got kicked out of the dorm within a month because there was a boy somehow in my room. College just was a disaster. Here's my college career. Me and one of my girlfriends got in a fight in a bar. She got stabbed 3 times, and I was in a courtroom. Me and my girlfriends was in another bar. We got in a fight. A guy got beat in the head with a baseball bat. Hospital, courtroom. Broke my foot drunk one night. Didn't know it was broke until the next morning when you come to. So that was my college career. College was not for me. I left college and started my new career as a bartender. There's not a better career for you and I, not at all. So I became a bartender, and now in the meantime, my mom, Brad talked about it a little bit, my mom had married what I thought was the president of Alcoholics Anonymous. His name was Jim Shaw. He's from this Pacific group, this big group out in Los Angeles where the president is and his cabinet. And so I, way to go, Mom, good job, good job. And sent my mom and Jim off to AA Al-Anon land. My mom would come back to Lubbock every year for the Lubbock Convention in July of 1984. She was there. I had a drink and went to go see my mom at the convention. I was sitting out in the crowd with my mom, just like you are tonight, listening to the speakers. And the speaker Friday night was a man named Johnny Harris. And Johnny talked about he always had wanted frilly curtains, and a white picket fence. And I thought, how did he know? Wow. And it just got my attention. And I'd been to lots of meetings, but this time I heard him. So I decided to come back Saturday night. And the speaker Saturday night was a man named Father Leo. And he talked about a hole in your gut that the wind whipped through and you could never fill it up again. And I thought, how does he know I have that in my gut? How does he know? And at the end of the meeting that night, there's a man named Albert from Dallas, friends of my parents, and he saw something going on. He pulls me aside. He talked to me, told me only things he could. At that convention, they had you stand up and get a big book if you were new. And he said to me, if you don't want to live the way you're living anymore, you don't have to. If you want to keep getting what you're getting, you keep doing what you're doing. Or you can stand up and get a big book. And I did. It was July of 1984, and I stood up and I got a big book. And I started my journey into Alcoholics Anonymous. I left that meeting that night. I went to a place just like this called the Hub of the Plains in Lubbock, Texas. I think my mom called ahead because there was a woman that was my sponsor at the door waiting for me. So I had a sponsor upon arrival. And I jumped in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. And like I had shared earlier, I felt hope. I felt clean for a moment. I felt like there was a chance for me to have a different life. I looked up a little bit. I didn't look at myself in the mirror eye to eye. I certainly didn't look at any woman eye to eye. And I started feeling like maybe I could be all right here. There's a little bit of hope here. And I jumped in the middle. I was probably about 3 or 4 months sober, and we were having a deal just like this, a little potluck deal, and they were, everybody was in the kitchen getting food and stuff, and I stood in the back corner and crossed my arms, and I started thinking, you know how we think, and I started thinking, you know what? Abby didn't say hi to me last week. I don't like Abby. You know what? Victoria, she looked at the guy that I like, and I don't like her either. You know what? I really don't like any of the girls in this meeting. Matter of fact, I don't like this meeting. You know what? I don't think I even need to be in Alcoholics Anonymous. I think I'm all right. I think I overcorrected. And that was about a 30-second, you give me a minute, and I'm going to take 10. And I was in that dark hole that fast. And who was I thinking about? Me. All about me. My sponsor, I have a sponsor, we were talking about sponsorship. I have a sponsor who gives clear-cut direction, as the book said. No suggestion for me, it's direction. And I picked that kind of sponsor on purpose because I know me. I need structure and I need that kind of sponsor. My sponsor saw what was happening across the room. She came across the room. She said, "What's going on with you?" And I started to tell her, and she said, "I don't even want to hear it." And she said this, "See in the kitchen, you see there's a loaf of bread over there on the table? Go get the loaf of bread, cut it open, put it on a plate, and go put it on the potluck line and stand there, and when it's empty, go fill it up again. Why don't you go think of somebody else besides you?" Whatever. So I went and got the bread, I opened it up, I put it on the plate, I went and stood in line at the potluck behind the table. People were coming by getting their food, and somebody got a piece of bread, and I'm like, "Oh, you want a piece of bread? Here's a piece of bread." And, potato salad girl, Julie, I liked her shoes, so we started talking about her shoes. Fried chicken boy, Johnny, was kind of cute, so I started talking to Johnny. And, before I knew it, I was in the room. And before I knew it, I loved Victoria. And before I knew it, I loved Abby. And I was so glad to be in this group. I was so grateful. So what happened in 3 minutes? What happened? Service. I was of service. I stopped thinking about me. I started thinking about you, and I started thinking, how can I give back? How can I give to the thing that has saved my life? I owe. So from that day to this, I have always been of service. I always have a service commitment. The first thing I did when I moved to Dallas and got to the Chicago group is said, I need a commitment. How can I be of service to the thing that is saving my life? How can I drive 2 hours to go pick up the speaker? What can I do? Do the bathrooms need to be cleaned? We all say we're really grateful for our sobriety, right? And when they say, can anybody stay and clean up? Are you really grateful? Gratitude is an action, and I'm grateful. So you will always find me in action. And that's the thing that happened for me that night. I went from a taker to a giver in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I have to tell you, there was a boy. Now, I was told all the things that we usually get told. No relationships your first year, no major changes your first year. Those are the things I was told. But there was a boy, and he told me I had cute shoes. Now, so I married him. Now, the guys that I hung out with, we didn't talk about shoes. So I had never had a guy treat me that way. I'd never had anyone talk about my shoes, first of all. So I was enamored. So the truth is, we got pregnant, we got married, I had a little girl, and then we got divorced. My mom and dad asked me to come out to LA, so I moved to LA. I did my inventory. If you have not done your 4-step, you're missing the boat. You're missing the program is the steps. Don't be afraid of the 4-step. The 4-step changed my entire life. I love when we have those little God shots, when you hear something that just completely changes your life. I sat at the Hub of the Plains, our group, in the room with my sponsor, and I did that 4-step, and I came out of that room knowing who and what I was. And I had something to work with. I had my character defects. I had the amends. I had something to work with. I had something to do. So don't miss out on changing your life. So I moved to Los Angeles. I was in the Pacific Group. I was on convention committees. I was sponsoring girls. Sharon Barker was my sponsor. I was a Barker baby. I got to go all around the country doing this. I worked in downtown Los Angeles in a 26th floor of a law firm high-rise. I had my own secretary. I lived in Playa del Rey, right on the beach. My little girl went to Marina del Rey preschool. It looked really good on the outside. I looked good. And it was my 10-year anniversary. It was 1994. My parents gave me a big 10-year party. All my friends were there. All my girls were there. It was a fun event. 2 months and 2 weeks later, I spoke in South Dakota. I flew home on a Sunday afternoon. I turned on the answering machine, shut the blinds. My daughter had already gone to live with Greg, her dad, and I tried to commit suicide with 10 years and 2 months of sobriety. What I had done is taken pills. I had been gathering those pills for a while. I had been working on this for a while. And sometime during the night, somebody called me, and I guess I answered, and there was that knock on the door. And this time there were 2 policemen, and behind the 2 policemen were the guys in the white suits that were taking me to a real, lockdown hospital. And behind them, of course, was my mom. And I got to that Daniel Freeman Memorial Hospital in the locked psych unit, and I thought, what in the heck now? And what had happened is simply this. I believe that every decision you make, whether you're a month sober, a week sober, 10 years sober, 4 years sober, 30 years sober, you are always walking either towards sobriety or away. Every decision you make towards sobriety or away. I believe that we are all one decision away from a completely different life. And I believe that every secret that you keep, every resentment that you have, every meeting you say, next time, you're either walking towards sobriety or you're away. And when you're 10 years sobriety and you've got this, it all looks really good on the outside, and you're dying on the inside. You're sitting in the rooms dying on the inside and not telling anybody the truth because you look good on the outside. and you have a resentment against God, I didn't think that counted. It's God. It counts. When it's 2 a.m. and you've got no God, let me tell you, it counts. And if you're an alcoholic of my type, when that spring starts to get tighter and tighter with every lie, every secret, every resentment, every inappropriate decision I made, behavior I had, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And like the book says, I got to have relief. And what was it going to be? I knew the tools of Alcoholics Anonymous. I knew what the tools were. But I chose not to take those tools. Which way am I going to go? Away or towards sobriety? And I knew what drinking was going to get me, and that was not what I wanted. And my decision was to commit suicide. So I was in this locked unit. I was in there for 7 days. Very angry, and a lot of people from my group came and tried to talk to me and give me, words of wisdom, and they really cared. They really tried, and I didn't want to hear it. Just didn't want to hear it. Been there, done that. I know that crap. I don't want to hear it. And I left that hospital, and I was to be in and out and in and out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous for the next 5 years. I would come in, I would sit in the back, I would sit with my arms crossed, I would say, God, I've heard that speaker, I already know that crap, I know the story, I know the steps, I know all about it, I taught you that, I don't want to hear it. Judged you, hated being here, and I would leave. Of course I left. In and out and in and out. And it was 1999. We were in Lubbock, Texas at my uncle's house. It was Christmas. My mom was there, and my cousins and my brother was there. It was meeting night. My mom was going to the meeting. My cousins and my brother were going to the bar. What was my choice to be? Am I going to go towards sobriety with my mom? Away with my brother. And I chose the bar. I went to the bar that night, and there he was. Told ya. 6'2", eyes of blue, blonde hair, black felt hat, the best Wranglers I've ever seen. And his name was Shane. Come on, right? So Shane and I, best dancer in the bar. God, he was a good dancer. And we danced all the way to Las Vegas and got married. And we had to quickly get back because his parole officer needed to know he was not out of town. So Shane and I are going to go, we're going to move to Austin, Texas and set up housekeeping. He said, we're going to move in with my Aunt Jenny. She has a trailer, and we're going to move into her trailer at the trailer park. And I said, oh, no. See, if you're from Texas, being trailer trash is very, very important that you are not. Am I right? Trailer trash, not good. And I said to Shane, I am not going to be trailer trash. And he said, not a problem. We'll put a tent in front of the trailer. Absolutely. Tent trash, no problem. And we did. We set up a tent in front of the trailer at the trailer park and at Aunt Jenny's. Until one night, they had one of those big plastic blue pools, and there was a party, and there was a fight, of course, and the pool busted, and the water floated down the street with my tent. Gone. Down the street. We moved into the trailer. It was one particular night, and Shane had run off with a red-headed stripper. God bless the redheads. So he's off with the red-headed stripper, and I'm sitting at the bar. Now, this is the kind of bar I ended up. I started in the discos with the disco ball and the lights, and that's where I started. My last bar was in Round Rock, Texas, with the parking lot was the dirt parking lot with the holes in it, and the doors propped open, and there's a bar and a mirror and a jukebox. And whoever sat next to me was my new best friend. If you bought me a drink, my new best friend. And let me just make it clear, the circumstances didn't matter. I didn't care. I don't care if you're married. I don't care. If you buy me a drink, I'm in, baby. You buy, I'm in. And whatever that costs, I'm in. And I'm sitting at my I'm in, and my new best friend was sitting next to me, and he invited me back to his apartment to, visit. So we we stop and get long neck bottled beer, and we're in his apartment, 3rd floor, visiting, having a beer. And he forgot to tell me that he too had a red-headed stripper girlfriend, and she was actually hiding on the balcony. So yeah, so that door opened and she stepped in and she asked me to leave, and I said, as soon as I finish my beer, absolutely. And she didn't like that answer. And I have to tell you, the next half an hour, 45 minutes to half an hour, I have no memory. I have no idea what happened. I was in and out of consciousness for the next 45 minutes because that man and that woman absolutely beat me half to death. On the floor, beating me to death. His name was James. He was stomping me in the face. She was hitting me in the stomach. I was in and out of consciousness, trying to get out, just trying to get out. And I came to for a moment, and she was pulling him off of me with her arms behind him. And I heard her say, "James, you got to stop. You're going to kill her." And I went out again. And I came to in the hospital with a busted face, ribs, concussion, you name it. Busted eyes, mouth, nose. So the nurse, they cleaned me up. They got me, did all that they do. The next day, the nurse came in and she had her little pad and she said, well, we're ready to release you. You can go now. And if you'll just give me the name and the number of who you want us to call to come and pick you up, we'll contact them. And I thought about it for a minute. I didn't have a soul to come pick me up. Not a soul. Victoria and I were talking about that. No one. I hadn't talked to my family in months. Shane was with the red-headed stripper, and I had nobody. I told you who my best friend was, whoever was here and bought me a drink. There was nobody in my life. And I said to her, I don't have anybody to call. And she said, that's okay, honey. And I took a breath. Because I knew whatever she was going to say next was going to make it all right. It was going to be okay. And she said, we'll call you a taxi. Incomprehensible demoralization. And I knew at that very moment, the ABCs, that God could and would, that no human power was going to fix this. I was done. I had my moment. You all have a moment. Everyone in this room has a moment, and I will hold on to mine forever. I know my moment. It is alive and well. I keep it close because I don't want to have another moment. I've had my last moment. They did call me a taxi, and they did take me back to that trailer. And I walked in that trailer, and in the refrigerator was a whole 6-pack of beer. And over there was that 1,000-pound phone. What was I going to do? Seconds and inches, towards or away, one decision away from a whole different life. So I kind of did this, and I felt my jeans. I felt a car. Looked at my jeans, and I pulled out a card. And 1 week prior to this event, I was out driving around. Shane, I don't know where he was. I was out driving around drinking, and I had our keen alcoholic mind. I had this idea. My mom was speaking in Tyler, Texas, about 2 hours away. I'll go have some beer and go see my mom. And I showed up at this conference drunk with my mom behind the podium and humiliated my mom again, causing a ruckus. There was a man there named Vince Y. from California. He was also one of the speakers, friends with my family. He saw this. He grabbed me and he took me in the back of the room, put me in a corner. I'm in corners a lot. I just thought about that. He put me in a corner and he stuck his finger in my chest and he said this. He said, I know you didn't ask for my opinion or my help, and I don't really care because I'm going to give it to you anyway because I was friends with your dad and I'm going to tell you the truth. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a place for you to come when you don't have nothing to do. This isn't a social club. This isn't a social function. Alcoholics Anonymous is a place where people have alcoholism, and they're trying to save their life. They're dying from alcoholism, and they want their seat so they can get sober. So if you want to get sober, take your seat. If you don't, here's my card. Get out. Go finish drinking. Go. And don't disturb this meeting again. I took the card, I put it in my pocket, and I went, up yours, pal. And I left. So I'm standing in the trailer, beer, phone, and I have his card. I just happened to have on the same pair of jeans that I'd had on that night. And I had that card in my hand. What am I going to do? And I picked up the phone, that 1,000-pound phone, and I called Vince, and I said, Vince, I'm in a little bit of trouble. I'm a little beat up. I need some help. And let me tell you this. If you call done and desperate and you ask for help, we're going to be there. We are going to be there 110%. Because that's what we do for each other. If you're done and desperate, we're there. And they were there. Vince called when my mom married Jim, the president of AA. He's not really the president of AA. I know you guys know that. He had a daughter the same age as me, and her and I had gotten sober together. Her name is Sheila, and we got sober together. And Sheila had stayed sober, and she was living in Norman, Oklahoma. And Vince called Sheila, and they sent the cavalry. They sent a carload of girls. It was a 12-step call. Let's go. And they jumped in the car, and they drove 6 hours down to Austin, and they picked me up, and they drove me back to Norman, Oklahoma. I had nothing. I still had dried red blood in my hair and on my clothes. I had nothing. And they threw me in the car, and they took me to Norman, Oklahoma, and they did couch commitments. I did couch commitments. I slept on your couch, and then your couch, and then your couch. They had a little plan for what couch I was going to be on, and I was humiliated and embarrassed and ashamed again. But I was never so desperate to be in my chair. I was so grateful I was going to have a chance to be in my chair. And I tell you, I sat in the front row, and I did not judge you. And I just thanked you that you let me be in this chair one more time. I'd been there about a week with this busted face. I couldn't work. I couldn't get a job yet. And you know what we do? There's an event. Get in the car. So the girls all came in. Get up, get dressed. We're going. Get in the car. We're going down to Dallas to the Big Book group. There's an anniversary, and we're going. And I said, there's no way I'm going. There's no way. Because my mother was the Al-Anon speaker at that event. And I said, there's no way I'm going to walk in that room and humiliate my mom one more time. I can't do it. And those girls said, you're right. You can't do it. But we can. And those girls, they bought the yellow cream for my purple bruise and the purple cream for my yellow and the yellow for the purple. And they got all my bruises covered up. They spent an hour on my face. They put glitter across my stitches. They got me a boa because I had stuff on my neck. And they walked me in that door, arm in arm, with a little bit of dignity so I could walk back in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know what happened? You guys welcomed me with open arms and said, come on in, come all the way in, sit all the way down. We got you. And they did. And I started my journey back to Alcoholics Anonymous again. Face cleared up, got a little apartment, got a little job. And I told you I was the law firm administrator on the 26th floor. I got a little job being the secretary to the secretary of an attorney, and I rode the bus to work every day. And I was never so grateful for that little job and that bus ride in my life. I was so grateful. And I started my journey back into AA. And I was so grateful. And my sponsor had me do little things like, I want you to go to the meeting tonight, and I want you to listen to two girls tell their story about what's going on in their life. And tomorrow night when you go back to the meeting, I want you to go up to them and I want you to say, Julie, I know you're going to go see your son today. How'd it go? And Veronica, I heard you're getting your driver's license. How'd it go? And one more time, I learned to not think about me and think about you. And if you're new and you don't know how to be in social situations, Just ask somebody how their day was. We love to talk about ourselves. And you're good. You're clear. That's all you got to do. So I decided, now that I'm, back, I'm sober again, I've got a little time, I decided I'm going back to school, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get my daughter back, and I gave my sponsor this new plan, and my sponsor said, no, you will not disturb that little girl's life. That little girl's doing just fine right where she is. They've taken well care of her. And this is nobody's fault. This is your fault. And you will not disrupt her life. What you will do is you will call once a week and you'll start working on that relationship. You will earn the right, the privilege to see her again, and you will mail the check. That child support check, every week. And that's what you will do. And how about this? Why don't you have the same address and phone number in your mom's phone book for a year? Wow. Mind-blowing. I never thought about goals like that. And I did that. I started that little relationship with my daughter one step at a time, one step at a time. And I got this little job in Oklahoma City. It takes about 30 minutes from Norman up to Oklahoma City. And there was a man there named Greg. And every morning, Greg and his wife and his daughter, they would come and pick me up. We'd drop off the daughter. We'd drop off the wife. We'd go to Oklahoma City. He'd drop me off. And at the end of the day, he would do it again. He'd pick me up. He'd pick up his wife. We'd pick up the daughter. He'd take us all home. And he did that day after day after day after day. And I asked him one time, why do you do that? How can I pay you back? And he said, I do that because that's what we do here. It's my service. And you'll know. You won't pay me back, but you'll know. You'll know when you've paid it back. And I put that in my little cap. So I got this little daughter back in her life, and I started doing what my sponsor said, and she turned 18, and I did get her back. Oh, God, did I get her back. Her dad said, here, you can have her. So, I'm trying to build this relationship with this 18-year-old girl. I had moved from Norman, Oklahoma to Phoenix, Arizona. I'd bought a home. I'd got a job. I'd got in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous again and built that relationship with God again. That took a lot of work. And my life was going well. And I got that little girl back, and she started going a little sideways. And our house started coming alive again at 2 o'clock. And I had to have my daughter leave my home because I have a sober home, and I could not have that in my home. And I had to make her leave. And while she was out, she got pregnant. She had a little boy. I was at an event, and I got a phone call that my daughter was in the hospital. The boyfriend was in jail, and my 1-year-old little grandson was in the custody of CPS. And I flew home. I took custody of that little boy. And I raised my grandson for a year. And let me tell you, that wasn't something I was all rah-rah about. I was not happy about that. And I remember calling my sponsor and just saying, I'm busy. I got a big, full life. One day I'm, thousands of commitment and stuff going on, and the next day I have a 1-year-old. And my sponsor said, maybe it's time for you to be of service to your daughter. Maybe you can pay your daughter back. The book says that we are here to play the role that he assigns today. And that's all you have to do is today. And I did that. And then she, while she was out there, she got pregnant again, and she had a little girl. And this time the little girl was born addicted. And I got the call again, and CPS came again, and they asked me if I wanted to take the little girl. And I had to make probably the hardest decision I've probably ever had to make. Because I knew I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't take her. I knew my cup was full and I couldn't do it. And I called my sponsor and we did some prayer, and I had to say no. I had to take care of that little boy, and I had to treat my alcoholism. That's the most important thing in my life. And that little girl went to foster care. Good news is she went to a fabulous foster care. They let me see her. They were wonderful people. And my daughter, I'm very happy to say, is 4 years sober and has both of those girls back. Children back. Yeah, you can clap for her. She's in Phoenix, Arizona. She was supposed to move to Dallas with me 6 months ago, and she did not. She stayed in Phoenix. So I was a few years sober, and my sponsor said that it was okay to date. It was okay again. And she said, you know, relationships are for mature individuals, and that immediately rules you out. Wow. I thought that was mean. But she gave me permission to date again. And she told me a couple of things. She said, 1, the date ends at the door, the front door. 2, stop answering the door in your wedding gown. Think about that, girls. And 3, when the boys say you want to come over and watch a movie and hang out, they don't want to watch a movie and hang out. And neither do you, she said. So I had to learn how to date in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I learned how to do that with some dignity. I learned how to date. I learned how to be courted by a man. My sponsor had me do a sane sexual ideal where I wrote down exactly what I wanted in a relationship, in a man, exactly down to the T, down to I want him to drive a truck. And I did that. And we went over that list, and we went through each thing. And after each one, she said, "Are you that? Are you that? Are you that?" And most of it I was. And she said, when you become that list, you will attract that list. And I worked on becoming that list. And I went to Beartooth Conference in Billings, Montana. It was Friday night. I read how it works behind the podium and came down and sat by my sponsor. And after the meeting, this big old guy comes up. There was a boy. And big, tall guy, bald hair, had a bald head, had a toothpick in his mouth. He, always rolling around this toothpick, blue eyes. And he says, "Hi, my name's John Barlene. It's nice to meet you," in that deep voice. And I went, "Oh, oh," and we started a courtship. And John courted me, and it was time to, have the conversation, the old conversation. And I said to him, I eloped twice. My family was never at any of my weddings. I've had 2 divorces, and my daughter was not at my wedding, and I broke her heart when I ran off to Vegas. And I said, so I'm going to cuss one time. So I said, I'm going to have a big-ass wedding. He puts his head down, rubs that head, moves the toothpick around, and he says, "Define big ass." I did. Let me tell you what happened. That man gave me my dream wedding. We had a 4-day wedding event, and it was beautiful, and all my friends were there. My family was there. The kids were there. It was a beautiful event. I would like to say that that marriage worked. Unfortunately, it didn't. We hung in there for 7 years, just lots of circumstances. Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. My sponsor told me not to even talk about marriage or engagement until we had been dating a year. We were married within 9 months. So I did not take my sponsor's direction, clear-cut direction. That's what happened. That's the truth. But I can tell you we're very good friends. He's been to our home group. He's a good man. We're good friends. I have this house in Phoenix, Arizona. I love Christmas. I love to decorate, and I decorate. It takes me 3 days to do our house. Everyone hates Christmas. Oh, God, it's Christmas time to decorate. It takes us 3 days, and I love it. And I decorate that house. It's beautiful. And every year I have a Christmas party at that house. And everyone looks forward to that party. We have a white elephant party, and people start calling me, "I've got this gift, I got this, I can't wait for my gift." And it was one particular couple of years ago, and I said, "You know what, sponsor, I don't think I'm going to do the party this year. I'm going to let somebody else. It's somebody else's turn. I'm going to let somebody else do it this year." And my sponsor said, "No, that's not what you're going to do. Remember, I take clear-cut directions, and I follow her direction most of the time. I follow her direction." And I said, "But this isn't an AA event." She said, "Yes, it is. You know the triangle, the fellowship? This is the fellowship. People look forward to that. It's a safe place for people to go. It's a fun place for people to go. And you're going to have the Christmas party. Fine. So I did. I had the Christmas party. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of people there. At the end of the night, there was a woman that came up to me. I hadn't noticed her throughout the night, and she was new. She was brand new in sobriety. She came up to me and she said, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having this party. I've always wanted to go to a Christmas party. I've never been invited to a Christmas party. I was always in a shelter or on the streets or in treatment or homeless. Thank you so much for inviting me to a Christmas party. It was awesome. And then I looked down, and beside her was little Johnny, about 4 years old. And he pulls on Mommy's dress and he said, Mommy, is this Christmas? And she said, yes, little Johnny, this is Christmas. And he said, it's magic. I would have missed that moment. And I knew right then, I thought about Greg and that he had told me, you'll know when you've paid it back. And I knew at that moment, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm paying it back. And I will always pay it back because I owe. There's a man in Phoenix, Arizona that has since passed, and this is what he always said. Mark the spot where you found God and go there often. I found God in this room, and I come here often. Thank you so much for spending the evening with me.